I'm starting a new life, turn wrongs into right. This is the Being Beloved podcast.
Greetings and thank you for joining us for the Being Beloved podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rolanda Spencer.
On this episode of Being Beloved, we speak with Reverend Michelle Simmons, founder and executive director of Why Not Prosper, a woman-centered reentry program located in Philadelphia. Listening to her story, you will understand how her calling to do this work is from both a personal and spiritual lens. After several experiences of incarceration then overcoming addiction, she has designed a program that is for women and runs with the purpose that everyone, even those coming from the most dire circumstances, has the ability to flourish.
All right, today we have Reverend Dr. Michelle Simmons, more affectionately known as Rev, here in Philly. She's the founder and executive director of Why Not Prosper, also here in Philadelphia. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so we're going to jump right into it because I know you have a time conflict. So tell us about you before Why Not Prosper.
So before Why Not Prosper,
Whatever you're comfortable with.
okay, so I kind of grew up with a mom that loved me so much in the Germantown section of Philadelphia, and a dad that was absent out of the house. And before Why Not Prosper, I was a energetic go-getter, hustler, in the Happy Hollow section of Philadelphia, all right? I love school, I love mathematics, I love softball and pitching. And I always wanted to be a judge.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, how did you start with Why Not Prosper? Why did you start Why Not Prosper?
Okay, so my vision always as a child was to be a judge and to be somebody, I had a lot of mouth and I was very energetic, and people was like, Missy, you need to be a lawyer, right? And so that's how I kind of grew up with that desire. But then when I got locked up at 17, with my mom's car, I said, I ain't gonna never be a judge now, and so I kind of threw the vision out to be, the judge at that early age. All right, and I need to say around 15, I had some trauma that affected my life, and then I held that secret. And so between the early arrests and the trauma, I then, ended up in prison shortly thereafter. Well, I didn't go to prison that much thereafter, but I was started on a spiral downward.
Okay. And so what was it, what happened in your life that made you strong enough to say, you know what, I'm going to help others? When did that transition start for you?
Well, I really don't even know. I get that question over the last 21 years of operating my organization. I get that question a lot, and I really don't know when the transformation happened. What I really do know is that I just got sick and tired of, and I think one thing that come to me was I was in CIW, California Institution for Women, on a New Year's Eve watching the ball drop, and I just was so tired of sitting in there, being there. And I remember on that, in that jail cell that day, I was like, this is going to be the last New Year's I ever be in jail. That could have been the moment right there. I was like, when I get out of here, I'm going to get my kids back. I'm going to go home back to Philly. I'm going to just get my kids and I'm going to do something with myself. I remember that day in the jail so clear. Like, I don't remember a whole lot of days, but I remember that could have possibly been the moment, right? Then it also was a moment in jail where I was at the, my roommate was Susan Atkins. She was like this mass murderer, and she was at CIW. I was her cellie, and she used to tell me about God. And I was like, Miss, I don't want to hear nothing about no God. And so she was like, well, come and go over to the chapel with me. And I was like, Miss, please, right? And so anyway, I started going over to the chapel, and it was in there I gave my life to the Lord and got saved. So we're talking about what was the moment where I crossed over. I'm not clear, but what I do know is those couple events. So I remember being in the chapel and this lady coming in there from T.D. Jakes' ministry talking about, she was an ex-addict and had been raped and molested and all of this stuff. And, she was preaching a sermon and she did what we now known as the altar call and said, anybody want to be saved? And I was like, I do. I don't even know what happened. My hand just went up. And it could have been that moment. I think all of those things was like a accumulation of my forward movement without me knowing it, right? So my surrender to God, my the women talking to me watching the ball drop, So those are the things that kind of gave me vision not to come back. Now, once I got home, I didn't have no vision for Why Not Prosper yet. I just wanted my kids. I wanted to get from LA back to PA. I wanted my kids back and I wanted to stay clean and I wanted the pain to stop. So those was my goals, okay, period. And then when I got here back to Pennsylvania, I had 8 months clean. And I was living in Norristown with my mom who let me parole back there. And I just started asking God, what you going to do with me now? And he was like, you going to open up a program for women coming from prison? And I was like, I am. I don't even think I ever questioned God. I was like, I am. And he was like, yeah. And I remember going back to the church because I had came right home and joined the church as the chaplain in the jail told me to. She said, don't go home. Don't go back to the hood. Don't go back to your family using. Go back and find people from Narcotics Anonymous. Go back and find people from church. And so I did that. And I remember running around the church like my first week home saying, I'm going to open up a house for women coming from prison. And the pastor was like, oh, Sister Michelle, go write it down. Go write it down, Sister Michelle. I said, all right. Next week I came back with my little 2 pages of what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I still have that actual proposal I wrote in 2001.
The social and economic impact of incarceration are tremendous. For women coming back home after prison, housing is one of the top challenges they face in Philadelphia. When you add the rising costs of living in the city and the mounting pressures of gentrification, locating a safe, clean, and healthy environment for formerly incarcerated women is far and few between. Reverend Michelle Simmons's Why Not Prosper program offering transitional housing specifically for women in reentry was a trailblazing idea 2 decades ago and is in high demand even today. Currently, she still has one of the few reentry programs with lodging and targeted to women in the city, even though there is a growing need with a rising female incarcerated population.
So let's talk about it. You got this message, right, that you were going to start this program. Why residential program? What was it that you were trying to, we know that housing is important, but it's a huge undertaking, right? Politically, in terms of the bureaucracy, in terms of the cost. So why did you say, I can do this, even if it's residential?
The whole Why Not Prosper journey has been a spiritual journey. Why did I do residential? Why did I do people from prison? It was downloads from heaven all the way through. Even to today, I still get downloads on a daily basis. And now I'm real intentional. So I didn't know what I was going to do. You understand? I was sitting in the pew and God was like, you're going to open up a house for women. And I turned around and said, God, Pastor, I'm going to open up a house for women coming from prison. Just like that. And then what happened from there was I was like, yes. So what happened was I heard the download and I said yes. So it's my yeses that's been propelling me forward. I've been real serious about yes. And when I say yes, I really do mean yes. So I didn't know what it was going to be, who it was going to be. I just said yes. And along the way, after I told the pastor that moment, next week I was like, Pastor, can I go look at the house? Because the church owned the house next door. And I was like, Pastor, I want to go go see the house. And then he said, well, I'll let the mothers take you over there. You know, I'm a canon. So he was like, oh, God, she's moving pretty fast here. And so I was like, yeah, can the mothers take me over there? And so why residential, I don't even know. But what I did know is that, like, I needed support. And what I felt in that moment, that whatever I needed, I was going to be able to link arms with another sister and we could trudge together, right? I didn't know all the language then. I didn't have it all figured out. I just said, yes, Lord, I'm going to open up a house for women coming from prison. And then I just started eating, sleeping, drinking it. And first I had all these populations. I was going to serve women from prison, women on drugs, domestic violence. Some mentor that I got along the way said, Michelle, won't you just pick one population? And you know, that way you can master it and that way you can focus. So even though the population that I serve, the formerly incarcerated, are coupled with other variables, my population is who I am. So I just put me like in the center of everything. And I said, whatever I need, that's what I'm going to, you know, advocate for others. So I didn't know about residential. A house probably came up for me in the beginning because I was at my mom's house in her attic. You understand? And so I was like, I want to open up a house. And I remember going back to my mom the day after I had that vision at the church and said, Mom, God told me to open up a program for women, you know, on drugs coming from prison. And she's like, well, Mel, where you going to live at, Missy? Okay, basically, where you going to live at? I was like, Mom, but God told me to open it. And I just took off there, running everywhere I went. I was like, God told me to open up a program. God told me to open up a program. God told me to open up a program. And some people rallied with me, and other people was like, you don't got no education? You just came home from jail? You don't even got your kids back? And I was like, yeah, but God told me to open up a program. And so I got locked and loaded in that. Residential was like in my spirit probably because that's what I needed. And that's where we are now. That is our signature of Why Not Prosper, is the residential piece.
Okay. And so let's talk about your support system helping you get through not only your own transition, but to open this place that you really, where they relied on your vision for it.
Well, I think that question is a little bit loaded. So I'll start with the first piece of what was support like for me when I got this vision. Like I mentioned, some people was like, girl, you don't got no education. You just came home, you don't got no money. So what the Lord did for me was he taught me to don't even hear the no's, you know. The Bible say when somebody don't believe in you or whatever like that, kick the dust off your foot. I was kicking dust. I was like, okay, you don't get it? All right, I'm going to the next person. So for me, I had strong support outside of the family support, which was like my sponsor from NA. I had the same sponsor for 20 years. People have supported me all through my 21-year journey with Why Not Prosper. And God raises those people up. You know, I always think it's going to look like this or come from here or come from there. And it'd be the one that I really wasn't paying no attention to that always kind of, you know, just undergird me during different times. You know, so support was like really my God was my strongest cheerleader, my mediator, my protector, my advocate. You know, so I lean on the Lord and the Holy Spirit a whole bunch, right? And that was my biggest support. And then me supporting myself. You know, I came into this process wanting to open a program broken, you know, not being able to tell people I was molested most of my life. I had a bunch of secrets. I had a bad relationship with my mom. I didn't really, know if she liked me or if I liked her. You know, I had broken relationships with my kids. I left them when they was 2 and 4. When I got back here, they was 9 and 11. You know, so I had a whole bunch of open wounds. So the first thing I had to do was to support myself. Right? And I had to stay clean. And I had to go to meetings and, learn to pay my bills and that. So when you talk about support, first support was supporting me, right? And then the next support was from my Holy Spirit. And then those God raised up along the way. Like I had a lawyer that would help me and did my initial paperwork. And then they left. Then I had a church, the Presbyterians, who gave me my first building and paid all the bills for a year. You know, after 3 years, they left. And then God raised up another group of people, a pastor in Philly, who gave me the building on Shelton Avenue. So support come in different ways, different sizes and forms. norms. But if I'm not in tune to my inner authority, I miss that support. So if I got to say something to somebody, if you're working on a vision or dealing with building something, like be in tune with your inner authority and obey it and pay attention.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's talk about once you're in Why Not Prosper, you're doing the work. What, I don't know if it was an event or a person, but when did you know that the work was being done? Like, I'm fully in it and the people that I'm working with are becoming successful in reentry.
Well, even to the day, 21 years later, I still, you know, question myself about the work, right? So my thing is this: I stopped trying to put it all in one bucket. If I help one woman along the way, I'm successful. You know what I mean? I never knew. If you would have asked me 21 years ago, would this organization be where it is? I didn't even have a fathom that it would grow or be and expand to the magnitude that it has. Remember, I just want to stay clean, get my kids back, you know what, and get some housing. All right, because the judge, when I got back, said I couldn't have them back till I got a house. All right. So when did I know the work was being done? I knew the work was being done when I walked through the neighborhoods and walked through the supermarket and go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and I see women that's been in the program giving me a hug with their children, right, and starting their business. So I always kind of see the people mirroring. When I first started talking, I say I question was the work being done. And what I mean by that was like my first 5 years when someone would lead a program or they didn't complete, I used to beat myself up like, you ain't doing good. This ain't going to work. Nobody's getting it. But nah, they was getting it. And it wasn't my job to, you know, see them from start to finish. I've learned through the years that my job might have been just to plant the seed.
Being Beloved podcast was made possible by a grant from the Valentine Foundation and also sponsored by Love Now Media.
At one point, I questioned myself about was the work being done? Was I being effective? Does this matter? And what I learned, because the first couple of years I kept, you know, whenever somebody leave, I'd be like, oh no, oh no. But what I've learned is that it's not my job to get them from A to B to completion. My job is to plant the seed, have a nice, suitable, clean, decent environment for them to begin to touch base with themselves and the God of their understanding. So I no longer have this expectation that everybody got to become a millionaire or do all these things. What I do know now that my job is just to plant seeds. Right? And sometimes I'm not going to see the full manifestation of the seeds I plant. You know what I mean? So I'm so grateful for that. And I have that kind of concept about success with the women, because with this population and the disease of addiction, sometimes they just got to go around the mulberry bush a couple times before they get it. But that does not mean the work I do and the program is not being supported or, you know, is inadequate to their needs. You know, the disease of addiction is a beast, period.
So if they drop out the program and come back, you'll allow it?
Some people do get placed on the do not come back list, okay, because of their behaviors. And I just say that straight up. I do have an open door policy. I don't care if you arsonist, sex offender, whatever. You know, I know that we need a fresh start, a non-judgmental, seeing the love and essence, fresh start. So with that mindset, you know, if people call and want to come to Why Not Prosper, more than likely, you know, if their mental health ain't through the roof, then I'm going to give them a shot if I got a bed. Okay? And so that's the motto that I have, really, that I'm sticking to. And, you know, I even turn down particular pots of money that will try to tie my neck with criteria and regulations that will inhibit me to be able to move the way I move, because the women need it, and it's the ones that really need it the most that they will make be ineligible to come to the program.
A key part of reentry programs is creating an environment that is welcoming for returning citizens who are at such vulnerable junctures in the process. Part of that is for them to find and be allowed to build community as much as they are actively addressing the impact of the actual detainment and unaddressed traumas before being incarcerated.
First, I want to talk about Philly overall, like how not just the bureaucracy and the politics, right? But how does the city in the last 21 years affected, especially the violent crime, affected the number of participants that you have now? Do you get more because of the uptick in violence, or has it been pretty steady over the 21 years?
Well, the Philly landscape, in my opinion, is evolving. You know, we're learned or we're sought out as the reentry capital, for one, okay? When I started 21 years ago, I had a mentor, Malik Aziz, who cloned that term, reentry, all right? And from the time when Malik and I, you know, and the rest of the formerly incarcerated people in Philadelphia was working on reentry, it has somewhat evolved, right? Now, the city and the bureaucracy and all of that, I really ain't never got no city money. I ain't really never got no state money. I've been on my knees, my knees praying, my feet hitting the concrete and moving and building relationships along the way. So I don't really know about the city doohickey because I ain't never got none of it. You know, for the first 10 years my program was open, I didn't get a salary. It was my life calling to support myself and other formerly incarcerated women. Okay, so now with reentry in the city, it's a very the fertile is wet, meaning everybody's talking about it. They're funding different programs for it, but it's also a lot of novice new people creating programs at this point because they think mass incarceration is a hot topic. So I would say beware for that, right? Because when I only had 3 years clean, I was going into prison doing resource fairs. I never got a dime. Remember, I just said I ain't had no salary. And there's other organizations that do stuff, and they do it for 3 years. And when the funding go, the program go, well, the people still here. So those type of things, those irk me, right? Just to be honest with you, because we formerly incarcerated women are here, and we're kind of like not going nowhere. We're also the same queens that could change the city, you know? So I guess your question was about the bureaucracy. I don't know nothing about that real quick because I ain't got none of their money, so I don't have to kiss up or bow down to anything like that, you know what I mean? The second part of it is the city's very reentry friendly, and then the next part is that, like, you got a whole bunch of people doing this work as it relates to reentry and mass incarceration, and yeah, so that's what I'm going to say about that.
And just talking to some of the other women, not only your participants, but other women who work in reentry here, they have a very high amount of respect for the work that you do. And what was very interesting to me is that whenever someone spoke about you, it was with endearment and affection even. Why do you think that you have that? Because I haven't heard that about everybody, let's be fair. But you have, but we have with you. So what are you doing different?
I feel like what I'm doing different is the way I'm showing up in the world. I think my transparency and authenticity really rise above. And then I'm coming from a place of love and compassion. No judgment. I'm just here to serve and I'm here to support. And so I don't got a hidden agenda. I don't got a motive, And I think people feel that whatever Rev got, she gonna give it to you. Rather is some knowledge, rather is some clothing, rather is partnership. So I try to show up like that. for the world, you know? And maybe that's what people pick up. And I genuinely care, man. I genuinely care. I don't care what nobody went through. I don't care what they got. I don't care what they don't got. What do you want to do right now so we can move forward? That's all I want to know. That's all I want to do. I'm focus driven. I'm mission, mission focused. And that's it. And I don't really play with all other stuff. And people get that. They know they're going to get the truth from me. If I'm not going to help you or we can't work together, I'm going to say that. You understand? And I'm going to tell you in love. I don't think that's a good idea right now. You know what I mean? We got some stuff we haven't cleared up. And I don't feel peace with it. So I'm real confident in who I am, without arrogancy. Because I know the one principle that I practice best to my ability is humility. So I practice a bunch of principles. I'm spiritual principle giving girl, but I love just being who I am, and I've just learned how to tell the darn truth, man. The truth is that don't feel good to me, and I'll help you, and I don't want nothing back in return. And so people may pick that up. Some people either love me or, they don't. But most people that really get to know me, they can see the genuineness of me. I don't really got nothing, man. I used to smoke crack out there butt naked, living in a refrigerator box down on Skid Row in LA. So everything I got, I'm living beyond my wildest dreams. And if I forget where I came from, man, I'm doomed to return. So I always remember where I came from. I always remember that, listen, I was in that box. I used to rent out the box for a nickel rock so somebody else could go in the box, okay? So I just so grateful and I'm so thankful, and none of this stuff really matters to me. And I think maybe that come off too. I don't got no motive. I just want everybody to live and do good.
Okay. So my last question, what is, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay, yes, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so people who are listening are going to be from all over. Okay. And so a lot of people might not know what Philly is and the energy in the city.
Yeah.
So can you,
Yeah.
can you paint the picture of what Philly is for a person in particular who's going through reentry or reintegration back into society? I'll give you an example what we talked about when we were talking to Dr. Renea. They were just talking about something like how to navigate public transportation system, and how, or what was the other one? Or like going from somebody from South Philly may not want to go to West Philly because of the
gangs
the
or
gangs
things
or whatever. So what does Philly look like? Like, give us some real palpable material things so people can understand, and when you talk about it, they can see it.
Okay, so in the city of Philadelphia, you're going to get what you put out in the city of Philadelphia. If you're a person returning back to the community and you're hungry for success or you're hungry for change, then you're going to be able to find everything you need. All right, will you need support? Probably so. So if you're in the city of Philadelphia and you're just coming home, it's 101 reentry programs. You're going to be a young lady that could turn any corner and ask about, if you're the type of person that wants success, then you're going to be able to find it. If you're a type of person that's living in victimhood, then you're going to have a different experience in Philadelphia, because you're going to be like, I can't do it. Everybody get this. Everybody get that. So the climate is going to be what you create in the city of Philadelphia. But the harvest is plentiful far as resources. The harvest is plentiful as it relates to anything you need. Us as formerly incarcerated, we got to beg a little harder. I use the term, we got to kiss a couple more frogs. You understand? But if you here in the city of Philadelphia, everywhere you go is reentry focused or centered, from the employers to the jobs to the, Why Not Prosper got an app. We got a hotline. We got a magazine. We got a house. Like, there's no need women coming home can't get what they need. But if you're a sister and you come home and you want to run to your man and you want to live in the past and you want to not deal with your trauma, then you probably going to say, it's nothing here and nobody loves me, and you'll get caught there. But a person that's on fire for good, they're going to have a nice time running around the city of Philadelphia.
Perfect. Did you get your, okay, perfect. All right, so my last question, and it kind of piggybacks off of that. What is the legacy that Rev wants to set in Philly with Why Not Prosper? 20 years from now, what are they going to be saying?
Well, I want to see my legacy while I'm alive.
Okay.
And so I'm doing just that. You know, I worked 20 years, blood, sweat, and tears to keep the doors of Why Not Prosper open. And some days it was just me and God in that program. You know, and so the legacy I want to leave, one is that this program, we have a 50-year anniversary. So my prayer is for a successor, maybe my daughter. But she seen me struggle so hard to keep them doors open. She used to be like, Mom, that's our Captain Crunch. Why are you taking it to Why Not Prosper? I want my cereal. So, I mean, that level of commitment. So the legacy I want to see is I just want to see a whole sea of formerly incarcerated women doing their thing. That's the legacy. I'm already seeing it now while I'm alive. But if you want to talk about physical plants, you know, we working now on Prosper Park, the SWAG team, which is the social justice arm of Why Not Prosper. And SWAG really is on the front line fighting for the rights for formerly incarcerated. We got several initiatives going on where we're dealing with anti-violence, health equity. We got to break in all racial barriers, looking at why the jails are full with Black and brown people. So we are putting our stamp. Why Not Prosper is definitely on the map. SWAG is on the map. And, you know, Rev is on the map, right? So the question is what legacy I want to live. I want that park open, you know what I mean, where that statue is up there for life, just like that love sign is down on City Hall. That'll be there for life, built by us. I was working on another thing. We have an acre of land in the Poconos, and I want that to be complete and done. I'm talking about debt-free, no bills, no mortgage. I don't want a bunch of stuff created and then I'm stressed out trying to pay for them. So my vision and my legacy is to leave things. I want $1 million or $10 million endowment, so when I'm gone and the next successor take over, they ain't got to grind like I did, blood, sweat, and tears every day trying to figure out how they going to make payroll and things like that, you know, begging like that. So my legacy that I want to see for the organization is that endowment, that park, that resort, you know, settled and done. The next ED or the next leadership of Why Not Prosper, they're going to probably be young and creative. I can't even think of what they're going to do right now. And far as me, myself, the legacy I want to leave, I just want to get out of, you know, when I retire, I want to be able that my name still remain great. Some people do great work and they get in mess and then their name be tarnished. So my legacy is that I was able to keep these doors open, you know, support these women and going on and have me a happy ever after somewhere. Praise the Lord on somebody's island, if you would.
Okay. Thank you so much. And the best thing about your answer is your smile while you were talking about your legacy. And I really appreciate you taking the time and the work that you're doing in Philly.
Amen. Thank you.
All right.
I'm starting a new life.
Thank you for those who are listening to the Being Beloved podcast, a podcast exclusively on Arc Republic that is committed to telling the narratives of formerly incarcerated women who are experiencing or going through reintegrating back into their communities and their respective homes. As well, we want to thank the Valentine Foundation for providing a grant for us to carry out this very special series. The Valentine Foundation is a Philadelphia-based organization committed to empowering women and girls. And as well, we must send a shout out to our sister organization, Love Now Media. Love Now Media is a company that is committed to an equitable future by amplifying acts of love, I love this, at the intersection of social justice, wellness, and equity. Lastly, and certainly not least, we would like to give gratitude to those who are listening, who are coming home, who are reestablishing themselves and going through reintegration. We want to let you know we are with you, we support you, we see you, and keep going even in the roughest days. Oh, and we did not forget those who are inside and are doing their time and those who are about to be released. We all love you. We all support you. And we hope that you grow and evolve with this Being Beloved podcast. And remember to keep being beloved, beloveds.
I'm starting a new life, turn wrongs into right. This is the Being Beloved podcast.